Okay. All right, I'll call you tomorrow afternoon and pick up another time.
I thought those were my papers. Thank you. Just
We're good.
my
I'm
iPad's
trying.
dying. Thank you. Normally, I don't care. I go online.
Right.
iPad's dying.
Same people. Same people.
She said we're on.
All right, we're going to start the Franklin Regional School Board Directors Committee of the Whole meeting for September 20th, 2021. We were in executive session on September 8th, 2021 for safety and personnel from 5 o'clock to 6:50. And again tonight, 9/20/21, safety, contractual, and legal from 6:30 to 7:25. Dr. Prano,
No report this evening, Mr. President.
thank you. Okay, going straight into public comments. We have 3. Ross Eaton.
Everyone, good evening. My name is Ross Eaton. I live at 4002 Murray Highland Circle, and I have 2 children in the district. Since I was last here, Pennsylvania's Secretary of Health has issued a mask mandate for all Pennsylvania schools. Given the board's previous statements that such a decision should come from the state, this must have come as a relief to you all, as it did for me. We finally have clear guidance intended to keep all students safe and in school. I know that you have heard and will continue to hear from people who are unhappy with the mask mandate. They held a protest outside the schools earlier this month, and I think it's telling that there were more children absent from school due to COVID diagnoses and quarantines that day than there were protesters. And unfortunately, the COVID numbers in our community continue to get worse. On Saturday alone, Westmoreland County saw 269 new COVID cases, the highest number since January, before vaccines were widely available. Just the zip codes in the Franklin Regional School District experienced 19 new cases on Saturday and 14 on Sunday, up from 1 or 2 cases per day in early August. With these trends in our community, it is critical that the school district not just, quote, enforce the mask mandate, but actively support it by building a culture that takes COVID mitigation seriously. Unfortunately, earlier policies led to a culture where COVID rules were optional. Now we need you, with the backing of the state, to foster a culture where mitigations like masking are taken seriously and treated with respect rather than derision. Creating that culture starts with COVID rules being strictly and consistently enforced, and with leadership setting a good example. I'd like to commend Mr. Scheinert and Mr. Nevin for wearing masks here tonight and showing that this is an important safety measure. At a recent evening event at the school, held after the mask mandate was put in place, adults were allowed to enter and travel around the school building throughout the evening with no masks. Speakers at the event removed their masks when addressing the crowd. Many who were wearing masks were consistently wearing them below their nose, especially in the hallways, a trend we hear is common among students as well. These are just some examples of moments when a swift reaction to those ignoring the rules would have illustrated the district's intent to enforce the mask mandate and make clear that ignoring it will not be accepted. Without these clear messages and consistent enforcement, the culture of dismissing COVID rules will continue, which will in turn create more work for your staff and administration as they attempt to enforce rules amidst mixed messages. Not to mention that a failure to enforce the masking order could have serious consequences for the district and its leadership, including financial penalties, loss of insurance, and civil litigation. Please also continue to require documentation from a credible physician for any medical exemptions to the masking mandate. The Department of Education was very explicit in their September 10th correspondence to Pennsylvania school leadership, saying, quote, "This order is not a mask optional policy," and continuing that, quote, "There are exceptions to the order, however, a parent's opposition to the order is not one of them." We are glad that the mask mandate has now come from the state as you desired, and that the district is abiding by that order. As we move forward, we ask that you recognize the importance of actively showing your clear support for this mask mandate and its benefits to our students' health and educational continuity. Please continue to make it clear to all students and adults visiting our school buildings that masks are required at all times, and be sure that this policy is enforced consistently and swiftly so there is no question about your expectations. You'll find that most people in the community are happy to follow a set of clear, consistent rules for the sake of student safety and educational continuity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Russ. Jennifer Ryder.
Hello, everybody. My name's Jennifer Ryder. I live on Kimmerer Hollow Road. Headaches, migraines, fatigue, depression. This is what you have made the conscious decision to afflict upon my son, along with the understanding that he is not cared about in his own school. He has lost his faith in his school and the adults and our society. I would go the route of sharing hundreds of scientific studies that show masks do nothing except cause harm, especially to children. But we've gone through that route numerous meetings and emails by now. Let's go the route of common sense. If a COVID particle is 0.1 UM and surgical masks, which were never designed to be worn hours at a time, even in the hospital, only capture the pore size of 200 to 1,000 times that size. What do you think this mask is really doing? If this concept escapes your common sense, I'm not sure we have the right leadership. Legal facts, let's go that route. WOOF has no rights to declare any emergency, health, masks, or any declaration forcing our children against our will to follow. We already successfully voted on this in May to take those abilities away from King Wolf. Or did we all forget? Government WOOF is completely aware of this, which is why in the order itself, there is no enforcement whatsoever or retaliation allowed against the children, teachers, parents, or anyone on school property. He released this order under the 1955 Disease Control Act. The Disease Control Act can only be declared when we are under a state of emergency, which King Wolf cannot declare because we took that capability away from him. The 1955 Disease Control Act, even if it was legally put into place, which it's not, only applied to sick people, not healthy people. This act has no control over healthy people whatsoever. It is null and void because it only applies to sick people. The Department of Health has no oversight to tell what a school board what it can do. You get your powers from the Pennsylvania Public School Code. There is nothing in our code that gives the Department of Health authority over our schools. Following this illegal order also means that you are making a decision to take away our medical freedoms, take away our parental rights to make decisions for our children, involve yourselves in medical tyranny, going against Article 1 of the Bill of Rights, stating that we shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, blocking our rights to breathe fresh air and use our God-given immune system that God has blessed us with, and it goes against our beliefs. Taking away our PA Constitutional Section 1 to enjoy our rights of life and liberty goes against Section 3 of our PA constitutional rights that state no human authority can control or interfere with the rights of conscience. No preference shall ever be given by law to any religious modes of worship. And it also defies Section 27 of our PA Constitution that the people have the right to breathe clean air. There are school boards all over the state and all over the country that are doing the right thing and making them optional. What do they have that you don't have? They're concerned for the children, the brains to do what is right, legal, and moral. This is your last chance to do things right. Schools, governments, and countries all over the world are revolting against this control. And you are allowing our children to be government tools for medical tyranny instead of standing up for what's right.
Thank you, Jennifer. Matthew Ackerman.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I just want to start off with a simple story. A week before school started, they had the open houses at the different schools. And in the middle school, I saw something that I didn't see in almost 2 years. I saw the opportunity for my son to be with his friends, to run around, to play, to sweat, to be a normal kid. And it was unfortunate on how touching it was, because that opportunity has been taken away. And because of those opportunities being taken away from the decisions by our leadership, both on the state and federal level, it has caused an additional plethora of issues. And I will be talking about those issues further in my speech here. I'm here to address Governor Wolf's mask mandate for the children in schools and daycare. After extensive research and real-world results, I ask that you disobey this order from the governor and continue with the original policy of masks being optional. Some are probably shocked that I've suggested disobey mandates from the state health department when it comes to protecting our children. Need I remind everyone in this room that the same administration had the policy of placing COVID-ill patients into nursing homes, all the while pulling out their own loved ones from senior facilities. From this act alone, we cannot trust the governor or his administration has the best interests of our children in mind. Real-life examples and studies show that mask mandates are ineffective against spreading COVID-19. Last year, New York and California had some of the highest COVID infection rates despite the most stringent mask mandates, as well as the time when Texas and Mississippi removed their mask mandates and saw decreasing infection rates, even faster than their neighboring states. As for research, a peer-reviewed study from the University of Louisville concluded, quote, mask mandates and use likely did not affect the COVID-19 case growth. This on top of relatively low dangers that children have in contracting and getting ill from COVID-19. I have not seen any evidence that masks work, only that, quote, the CDC or whichever government bureaucracy tells us to do so. As to the dangers of wearing masks, we have seen the evidence. A track runner passing out at the finish line in a race in Oregon, when a school board member almost passes out when simply arguing for mask mandates in Idaho, and then the parents who sent their children's masks to a lab only to find a litany of dangerous pathogens in those masks. And on top of that, there was a study out of Rhode Island who showed that infants born during the pandemic are struggling. They are 22% behind their cognitive development compared to normal babies. Am I the only person in this room who considers the long-term effects to these children who are breathing in these fibers, germs, and bacteria of real-world use of masks every day? There's another pandemic amongst our children, obesity. I had a pediatrician tell me she has seen an average weight gain of 20 pounds in my son's age group since the lockdown in discussing his own weight gain. And this weight gain is reported all across the country. Our children need to exercise, run around, and be able to play with no inhibition of air to fight back against the issues that cause so many health problems. When you inhibit oxygen and increase CO2 intake, the kids will not be as active as they need to be. Considering being obese makes it 3 times more likely somebody will be hospitalized due to COVID, masking our children would only continue to put them in the same danger of the same threat we're trying to fight.
Okay, your 4 minutes. Thank you very much, Matthew. All right, I'm going to make a statement about the message that was on our website about the mandated masks for tonight. That was not the school board's idea. We're getting blamed for it, but it wasn't us. The municipality of Murraysville told us that last Wednesday, or this past Wednesday. We had lunch with the supervisor, the mayor, the police chief, and the 2 of us. And they said, we have to have masks in this building. We found out this afternoon after 12 that they took the sign down Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, I think it was. So we had no idea that was going to happen. So it wasn't our fault. Okay? Thank you. All right, we're going to, solicitor's comments.
I have no comment for public session, Mr. President.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move into consent agenda items. Dr. Pine has said personnel.
Yes, there are a number of appointments, leaves, and resignations for certified support and supplemental personnel. Any questions?
No.
No questions on personnel? Okay, you're still up, Dr. Pine, say ASCD purchase agreement.
Yes, this is an agreement to purchase a subscription to ASCD's professional development platform. This would be used by our teachers. Our teachers every year are required to get a certain number of hours of professional development, and sometimes we want to conduct certain professional development for them or have them focus in a certain area. And this is a site that gives us the opportunity to give them access to ASCD's ebooks, their magazine. They have classroom videos, self-paced online courses, teacher-driven tools, webinars, and professional learning in key instructional areas, and also streaming of professional development videos. So this would be a very nice benefit for our staff, and which we could work with them in very specific areas for their professional development.
Any comments on
I
ASCD?
have one question.
Yep.
From the wording of this item, it looks like this is the first time we've used this service from ASCD. Is that right?
Yes, yes. We have never used this service before. This is actually a new platform from them. This is being paid for out of Teacher in the Workforce grant funds and Title II funding. Prior to this, the district was using a product called Bloomboard, but there was just a desire to change that. I think this just offers a lot more. So this is a replacement to the Bloomboard product that our teachers were using.
And is it also viewed by the teachers as an improvement?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to know.
yes.
Any other questions? Yes, Deb?
Question, but my battery's not coming on. Does it offset the Bloomboard? What's the cost offset?
Well,
The cost offset?
I don't believe the district had ever actually paid for Bloomboard because I think we were kind of in it as a pilot type program. So I don't know what
I
cost.
can actually address that. I'm happy to. We used Bloomboard for 2 years at no cost, as they were a startup company trying to become established, and they wanted to use us to develop the content for their program. We obviously did not have tremendous success with that pilot, or we would not be coming back to you. If we're going to provide professional development to our teachers and our staff, we want to make sure that it's robust and that it's based on practice, and that's what this offers. So Bloomboard was going to assess a cost this year. I don't remember what that exact cost was, but it was not something that we wanted to pay for. We would have rather have pursued a company that had, or an organization that has an established track record for providing professional development to school administrators and to teachers.
I don't know the exact cost, but I do believe I saw a budgeted amount of $15,000 for that for a single year. But I don't know exactly what that was going to be.
Any other questions?
It mentions Exhibit C, description of services. I didn't see an Exhibit C in the document uploaded. Is that just what the trainings are, or?
Oh, on the contract?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know, but I will find that. I see what you're talking about, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Anything else?
I don't think that was included, Scott, because, well, I'll find out. I'll find out.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Pinus.
Sure.
Okay, Dr. Rogowski. New story tuition agreement.
Good evening. I have 4 items for your consideration this evening. The first item is our annual agreement with New Story. If you remember, New Story is a private school that specializes in supporting students in special education with complex behavioral and educational needs. We've worked with New Story for well over 10 years and have had a lot of success with their program, and we would be very pleased to continue that partnership.
Any questions on News Story? Okay, Phase 4 Learning Center.
Sure. Our next agreement is with Phase 4 Learning Center, which is an alternative education program. If you remember, alternative education, students are placed there for a variety of reasons, specifically students that may have some misconduct in school, such as disregard for school authority, display or use of controlled substances on campus, violent or threatening behavior on school or during school-related activities, possession of a weapon, or a commission of a criminal act on school property. This program works with us. It's an approved program by the state. Students receive at least 20 hours of academic instruction, in addition to 2.5 hours of counseling.
Any questions on Phase 4 Learning Center? Pathways Human Services.
Sure. Our next agreement is, again, an annual agreement. This is formerly known as Family Behavioral Resources. We contract with FBR or Pathway Human Services of PA for counseling for students that require this service as part of their IEP. So they do provide us a mental health counselor if students require that in order to benefit and receive FAPE. And the hourly rate is in the contract.
Any questions? Thank you, Dr. Rogowski.
I think I have one more,
Okay, sorry.
Mr. Yingling. That's okay. The last agreement is an agreement with IU1 to provide professional development to Mother of Sorrows. If you remember, this is part of Title II funds, and so the district had received approximately $73,000 for Title II, or actually $59,000, but we transferred other title funds into it to get the number of $72,000. And then what we do is we calculate our total school enrollment and Mother of Sorrows' total school enrollment as of October 1st. And then we divide that by that $72,000, which gives us a per pupil allocation of $20.28. You take that money and multiply it by the number of students at Mother of Sorrows, which at that time was 273, and that's what gives you the $5,536.44.
Just one quick question on this. How long has IU1 and Mother of Sorrows been working together?
Well, I've been supporting title services now for the past 3 years, and it's been probably longer than that. This is a decision that the diocese makes in conjunction with the school districts in the county.
So I take it that Mother of Sorrows and IU1 are satisfied with this relationship?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Rogowski.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Flavio. SPHS Behavioral Health.
Good evening. This is our annual agreement with Southwestern Pennsylvania Human Services for drug and alcohol assessment, screening, and case management. This is provided to us at no cost to the district.
Any questions? Okay, St. Vincent.
This is another annual agreement with St. Vincent Prevention Projects for our in-class instruction related to social skills, safety, and internet safety. And as well, so that's K-8, and then we have a Friends Connect group in the high school where students with special needs and students in regular education have social skills groups together. This price has not changed, and to note that we pay for 3 days of this instruction for the REAL in-class program, that is REAL, it's an acronym, in the elementary, and we are also provided 3 of those days through funding from WEDAC, the Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission. That's the same as previous years.
Anybody have any questions on St. Vincent? Thank you, Mr. Flavio.
Thank you.
Mr. Schreckengast, PRI contract.
Good evening. I have 2 items. The first item I have is the PRI contract. This is for our telephone service. We are moving our DMARC out of Heritage to the Newlandsburg complex in the garage. We need a PRI for the telephone system installed and ready to be operational when we actually do the physical move of the people and the phone system.
Quick question. It says $255.25 a month, but is that for the whole year?
Yeah, that would be
Or it
yearly
works
for-
out to an annual cost of like $3,063?
Correct. We're saving about $400 a month from what we're paying now.
Okay, I get confused when I read this. What's PRI stand for?
It's a primary rate interface. Basically what it does, it consolidates 23 phone lines into one line so that you
Okay.
can make continuous multiple outbound and inbound calls.
So it's a piece of equipment,
Digital line, yes.
and we basically rent it for $255 a month.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted clarification.
Okay, ECF home internet service.
Okay, this is the ECF, is the Emergency Connectivity Fund. It's a federal program through the FCC. They allotted, I think, $5 billion in phase one and $2 billion in phase two to use for certain items. There was a countywide survey that went out a couple months ago trying to find out what families had unmet needs with internet service. So these families were identified, and what unmet need means is they can't get service at their residence, they can't afford service at their residence, or they have insufficient service at their residence to support online learning. So this fund is an agreement with Windstream, who this will give them the ability to contact these families and work with them and try to get them internet service at no cost to the district. So once we sign this agreement, if we get funded, then Windstream would be able to contact those families, work with them to try to get them internet service, and it would be paid for through this fund. Still a lot of unanswered questions with this yet.
Any questions?
And Windstream, it does all the interfacing with this fund?
Yes, they provide all the equipment, the installation, no fees for the district. And, and the fund will pay them direct, will pay Windstream directly. We won't even be involved in any of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Perry. Gifts, grants, and donations.
Good evening. We have a number of gifts, grants, and donations this month. We have the recurring staff contribution to the Fund a Meal program of $110. Two donations to the high school athletic programs from the Snyder Agency, $500 for volleyball and $1,000 for soccer. Our high school science bowl team performed well last school year and earned a $500 grant that will go towards offsetting some of the costs of the competition for this year as well. PPG Industries donated $892 for elementary stream programming. The Anderson Corporation donated $15 to the Franklin Regional Middle School. And one of our high school phys ed teachers wrote a grant for the Highmark Foundation for PE equipment for $7,200. So quite a bit of good stuff going on this month. The next two agenda items relate to the district's annual participation in the WIU Joint Purchasing Consortium. The first is the authorized representatives. I would be the district's main authorized representative, and Mrs. Erica Cowell would serve as the alternate representative for the district's participation in the purchase of multi-purpose copy paper and fuel. And the second item is just a authorization to advertise jointly with the other school districts that participate in the WIU Joint Purchasing Consortium.
Any questions for Mr. Perry?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Mr. Matsey.
Good evening. I have one item tonight. It's for the WSS Integrated Technologies Service Contract. This is a contract for our cameras, our swipe cards. This is a prepaid contract for 100 hours. We shop this, and we're saving the district $1,500 to our previous vendor.
Any questions?
Just one. Do we use this service?
Yes, we had a contract from 2019. It is used up its time. That's why we're applying for a new service plan. It
Okay,
took that
thank
long
you.
to get us to where we're at.
Okay, we're going to change orders. Oh, no, I'm sorry, yeah, change orders.
So we'll start out, item number 15 is change order HC 009 to Guys Mechanical. This is for the heat sensors for the the hood for the kitchen. The sensors were installed, but they were not connected to any control system that would actually allow them to function. This was a straw poll vote, but this is the official change order for the board to approve. This value is for $1,575.
I assume that's an omission?
Yes.
So Bill's not here, and he would normally have given us all an update on these change orders, and we did not get that. So I'm going to have some extra questions for you.
Okay.
How can we have a sensor and not want it to be connected? How is that a change order? I would think that if we wanted a sensor, that we would have also wanted it connected, and those two charges would go together.
The problem in this particular instance is the sensors were provided by one contractor, but they were not shown by the electrical contractor or the controls contractor to connect. So there were two different contracts. It was missed on the one set of drawings.
Missed by whom?
The design team.
Okay, so they just didn't think that we wanted the sensor connected?
I don't think it was a matter of them not thinking that it could be connected. It was not coordinated with the controls that were added per the food service consultant with the electrical or HVAC design team to get them to be connected.
Is that normal practice?
No, it's an omission.
These two people wouldn't coordinate with each other?
Well, ideally, obviously, they're coordinating their
I
work.
know, that's why you said it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, change order
next-
HC 10.
Yes. HC 10 is also to Guys Mechanical. This is an item to install a stainless steel cap on an existing chimney. This cost comes in at $1,035.30. In this instance, we had an existing chimney that the design team showed that the flues for the boilers were to be installed, and they go up through the chimney. Now that we have the flues for the boilers going through this existing chimney, there was no cap on the chimney. Now that we have these flues running through the chimney, when the rain comes, the rain is following the path of the flues, and we're getting water into the mechanical room. And so it was advised that we put a cap on that. The drawings did not show putting a cap on that, but it was recommended that we do so.
I guess, Nancy, I had one question. It's an existing chimney.
That's correct.
What was it used for previously that it did not require a cap?
I cannot answer that question. I do not know the answer to that.
Well, then maybe you can fill in my knowledge gap. We must have removed something and then connected new equipment to this existing
So the existing chimney was something that was there. There was nothing going through it prior to us using, at least at the time of this project, there was nothing running through that chimney.
But yet the weather was coming in all the time for years?
So it was still exposed, but it was exposed over a crawl space. So the rain that was coming into the chimney was just going into a crawl space. Now, ultimately, I would think you'd want a cap on that chimney regardless. However, there was not one there at the time.
All right, but that answers my question. The rain was coming in for a long period of time. Clearly, I don't like that situation any better than anybody else. And now we're using the chimney.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
to further upon that, we obviously had a existing hole that was already there with obviously the water coming down. I'm shocked that a cap would be $1,000 for a little flashing that goes over the top of a hole. I got done capping a lot of stuff, and these caps are like $8, $10, $12.
It's a pretty decent size chimney.
How big?
I don't know the exact dimensions, but I can get that for you.
It'd be important because that seems to be an awful lot of money for a piece of tin.
It is stainless steel. I know I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, I'd just like to see that because when we talked about change orders, when you start looking at stuff like that for, we'll say, let's give it a high end, $50 cost of a cap. How does $50 equate to over 1,000? Labor can't be that much to put a piece of tin down on it.
Well, again, it has to be cut around 3 flues now and sealed and whatnot. But it's not just the material, but I will get that information.
Yeah, thank you. I'd be real curious.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll provide that to Mr. Matsey, and then he can forward it to the board.
Any other questions? Next change order.
All right, the next change order is EC 10.
Herb, I have a
I'm
question.
sorry,
Yes.
I apologize.
So when somebody's building something, do they go and look at the old thing first? Like, wouldn't somebody have noticed that there wasn't any flashing on it? You just said there was no flashing on it. Wouldn't somebody have noticed that there wasn't that cap and say, oh, we better add that to the list of things we have to do? Like, isn't that a...
I can't speak to what the design team did. It's that would
Where
have
is
been
the
an
design
inspection
team
associated
today?
to what they could have done.
Didn't we used to have somebody from the design team come to our meetings when we were online? Maybe somebody from the design team should come to our meetings so we can ask these questions.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
Who would we need to invite them?
I believe they've been invited.
They have been.
Did they decline the invitation?
They just don't show up, I believe.
They haven't shown up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so EC 10 is to A1 Electric. This is for adding a dedicated circuit for an existing sump pump. We, in the working of the phased project, at one point in time, we had a circuit closed for work, and it was discovered that that circuit also had this sump pump on it. We had some flooding because the sump pump was turned off. We did not realize that it was connected to the circuit. And we realized there's a certain situation here that we can't leave as is. It was recommended to the board, or to the district, that a dedicated circuit would be an appropriate way for that existing sump pump to be connected to the power. And so this is a cost for us to do that work. That cost comes in at $606.65. Any questions?
Comments?
Again, like, wouldn't somebody know where that plugs in and where it, I'm not understanding. Like, I grew up in Ohio where the water table is very high and everybody had a sub pump. And like, if your sub pump's not working, and where your sub pump's plugged in, and some people have generators, backup generators for their sub pumps. So I'm not understanding how this is something that we didn't know where it plugged in. We unplugged it, and I'm not understanding.
Okay, so the sump pump was hardwired to a circuit. It's not a actual plug, I don't believe. It was an existing sump pump. It was not a part of the project. But in the process of us doing our work associated to the actual construction, that circuit was closed, or I'm not thinking of the right term, but we closed that so that we could do work in other things. That's when we discovered that the sump pump was actually on that circuit, and there was a potential problem for the district. We caught the fact that it was flooding, and it was immediately turned on so that we didn't have any further issues. But if that had happened on a weekend, you had a power outage or something like that, obviously we want something on a dedicated circuit for that. So that was the reason for the suggestion.
Nancy, not to belabor it,
No problem.
So the sump pump must have shared that circuit with other equipment?
That's my understanding, yes.
So
I don't know what equipment, it was on a circuit, it wasn't on a dedicated circuit. So
Okay.
there were other things connected to that, the same.
so somebody threw a switch, hey, let's turn all this off while we're doing work.
Correct.
Thought they were turning off a whatever.
Maybe some light fixtures. I don't know exactly what the circuit was and what was connected to it.
Yeah. And inadvertently turned off the sump pump.
Correct.
So indeed, what may have happened is just an error in judgment 20 years ago or whatever. This is in the primary school, right?
This is in the primary school.
Yeah. So Lord knows when somebody put a sump pump on a shared circuit instead of a dedicated circuit.
Correct.
On a piece of land next to a couple of protected waterways.
Yes.
Some poor judgment at some point in time. Yeah.
Again, we wanted to correct it so that we don't
Got it.
have, or the district doesn't experience any issues with it in
Thanks.
the future.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
So when did you discover this?
The exact timing, I don't have the answer for that. I can certainly get you that information. This work has not been completed. We were waiting for the approval of the change order. We asked for the contractor to provide the costs. It took a little time for them to get that to us, and then obviously we had to review it, and that's why it's on the agenda for September.
Anybody else? Okay.
All right, the next change order is EC 11, also to A1. This is to add power for a VAV box that didn't, the electrical drawings did not show getting power to this VAV box, as well as when we added the water regulator for this building, tamper flow and flow switches needed to be added. So these are the costs associated to doing those two items. And this change order is for $2,108.91.
And I assume this is omissions too?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Okay, Deb.
Again, I'm sorry, Mr. Yant usually answers all my questions and he was not available. What is a VAV box?
It's a variable air valve. It is in your duct system to control the airflow in the duct.
And wouldn't somebody want that? Like, why
Again,
wouldn't?
this is a coordination issue between the HVAC contractor and the electrical, the HVAC designer and the electrical designer. Yes, sir.
I have to ask because we keep going to the design team, which I hold no love for, to be blunt. But it's kind of easy to point the finger at somebody who's not here. We have a construction manager on this job. And when we've got a disconnect between our HVAC folks and our electrical contractor, I understand that it was missing in the drawing or in the design. I understand that just like these heat sensors on the hoods, I understand that it's one thing for VEBH to put a light switch on the wall and then not draw a wire coming to it between it and this light. I get that. But at some point in time, doesn't the construction manager take responsibility for looking at tab A and slot B and realizing that they don't connect?
I can't speak to what our pre-construction team does on the minutia of cross-referencing every single document. Our typical pre-construction, in my understanding, is reviewing the drawings and making sure that they are complete and that they can be bid upon. However, I don't know that they get into the minutia of cross-referencing every single piece of equipment and the connection. I can't speak to what that entails, so I don't feel comfortable talking specifically to that.
And
we do try to catch as much as we can.
Yeah.
in the process of pre-construction. I know that that's a part of our constructability review.
Yeah.
However, I can't speak to, I have been on many projects where these kind of things are not caught.
And so I understand and I respect that. And I also understand and respect the fact that Nancy is at the podium taking the heat for something that didn't happen back here. I would offer that when it comes to minutia of disconnects, these are literally disconnects. When it comes to minutia, I don't think that any of the people here are supposed to get in the weeds on that. I certainly don't think that that's what we paid a fellow in the gray suit for. I think we hired a construction manager to represent this district to make sure that the project happens right. And thank you for recognizing that an old problem like a sump pump without a dedicated circuit should be fixed. Agreed. Thank you for catching the fact that they decided to chase the flue out of an old chimney that was there and for God knows what reason when it was built 50, 70 years ago, whatever it was. Thank you for recognizing the fact that now the water is, of course, trailing down this pipe and dumping, right? Gravity takes it right into the mechanical room where you sure as heck don't want water. So I appreciate the fact that things are getting fixed. What I'm frustrated with, and not with you.
You are, Macero, and I represent Macero, and we are your construction managers.
Yeah.
And there are things that I understand completely why the board is frustrated that those things were not caught.
Yeah. Lots of
I
them.
understand, and I understand that frustration.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my position at this point in time, at this juncture of the project, I have to make sure, and I'm doing my best to make sure that you have a completed building that meets the standards that are expected from this district. And unfortunately, there are things that have been mistakes that have to be fixed and that the contractors need to do in order to provide you with that building that you expect. And unfortunately, sometimes that means there's a change order and there's a cost associated.
I guess I'd like to make a comment. We've had a number of items in past meetings and this meeting where the fundamental problem was there was a drawing error, usually an omission. For example, the wire was left off, or the situation we have here. You, as the construction manager and represent the construction contractor, you're the one that catches all these things in the end.
Or the contractor does.
Yes, but what I observe is we've had a number of drawing errors. Now, we might be able to point our finger at the architect or the design team, whoever that might be, and say, well, they missed it. Well, they did, as a matter of fact. But that raises the question of reviews. And although the construction manager generally tries to do a review and pick this stuff up, but I'm not sure the design team is beholden to the construction manager. The design team is beholden to us. So I don't know what other kind of reviews go on in this thing. So my point is, they're not the only one that missed it. And so I think we need to consider that, and we need to take a look back to who approved these design drawings, and how did that process work? So there's been enough of these that it raises that question in my mind. I don't have the answer to that, but yet I think there's other reviewers that were involved in approving these drawings.
My understanding is that we hired a construction manager to review everything in pre-construction to make sure that we don't find ourselves 3 weeks open with the school and water running down a flue into the mechanical room. And so I don't know who else would review it. I don't certainly know of anybody, save maybe John Corey, who would have the ability and expertise to watchdog this thing right from the beginning of the project. That certainly doesn't fall under the venue as is described in the Commonwealth of a school director. It doesn't fall under the responsibility of a superintendent of schools. Because we're not in the construction business, we're in the education business. The royal we, not me. Because we're not in the construction business, when we build $50 million worth of school property, we hire somebody to make sure that it gets done right. Not eventually. Well, yeah, eventually. But preferably from the beginning.
But this goes down the logic path of delegation. If we hire somebody, we can delegate the job, but we still have the responsibility. So I don't know how we square that all up, Greg. I really don't. But nonetheless, it seems to me that the reviews were at fault as well as the original design error that's in the drawing.
Any other comments?
Point taken.
Nancy, I guess I have a question. Can you hear me? When they find these emissions and then they determine the cost to correct it or fix it, are they charging us full freight, or is there some sort of an adjustment because there was an omission on someone's part?
Unfortunately, as most people will tell you, change orders do tend to be more expensive than what you would have received at bid day. So you do not get any discount. The contractor gets the information on what needs to be done, and they price it. Macero reviews the price. The design team reviews the price. We review the price with the district before we proceed with our recommendation to the board.
So they actually all should be communicating, and the design team, let's say, in this, should be aware that it was an omission that they missed.
That is correct.
And it would seem that there would be plenty of opportunity for them to say it should be X, but because we feel that it was our error, or we were partly responsible for it, we're going to do X minus Y, and it's Z then. Why does that never happen?
I cannot answer that question. I don't know. That is not something that I typically see in any project, not just here, but any other project I've been on. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Okay, next.
We are moving on to the intermediate school. This is change orders GC22 to Mucci. This is to create a soffit bulkhead at the loading dock. The cost is $1,937. At this location, we have a fire damper duct that comes out of the kitchen area into the loading dock area. The duct was lower than anticipated. The duct had to be welded, and the person needed to be able to actually access the top of the duct to do the welding. Then there was additional fire insulation provided over the ductwork, and unfortunately, we could not lower the ceiling anymore, so they had to create a bulkhead for that, to cover that duct. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, number 20.
Our next item is EC8. This is to add carbon monoxide detectors and cover a gym pull station for the fire alarm. These are items that during our walkthrough on August 4th with the fire chief, these are items that they determined needed to be added to the project, and these are the costs associated to that. As far as the carbon monoxide detectors, what the electrical contractor is recommending is they're swapping out the smoke detectors with a combo unit that'll do carbon monoxide and smoke. And so there are 4 of those. And then the cover for the pull station in the gym is to make sure that we don't have an issue with someone accidentally pulling the pull station.
Again, I have a question. You pointed out this happened from a walkthrough with the fire department chief.
Correct.
Was there some sort of regulation or requirement for carbon monoxide detectors that was the reason he made the comment?
Those are specifically in the mechanical rooms. I couldn't speak to what the code requires, but the drawings were approved with just the smoke detectors. But this is not uncommon that when we have these kind of walkthroughs with emergency response and fire departments where they request something additional. I have seen it before, but I can't speak to specifically what the code is. Obviously,
yeah, I'd like to think the fire chief's not making up some rule. There's some code someplace that he's trying to be compliant with. He or she, whoever
yes.
they may be.
So my comment would be this is a good recommendation because this is in a mechanical room, and just like you would want to have a carbon monoxide detector in your own home near your furnace, this is not, which is why we pursued getting the pricing, because I think it's a good recommendation on the part of the fire department.
Well, then let me ask the question a slightly different way. If we decided not to take his good suggestion, would we have a problem getting the fire chief's approval?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not quite just a good suggestion.
No, again,
Okay,
it's one of those things, we do need to do it.
I'm not arguing that we need to do it, but when these things happen, you say to yourself, gee, I missed something in my design. I should have had this in there. I should have had carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide detectors in the drawing.
I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, and so I'm not holding anybody accountable right now, but I'm trying to figure out what was missed where in the process. That's all.
Understood.
Thank you.
Nancy?
Yes, sir.
I can speak on this because it is part of a code that has to be done. The part that I thought I heard you say 4 carbon monoxide detectors?
Yes, so there's 2 in each of the mechanical rooms. We have 2 different mechanical rooms, one on the ground floor near the loading dock, and then we have one on the 2nd floor off the media center.
Okay, so we have 4 CO detectors. Correct. I sell them for about $60. Why is there a charge of $2,700?
These are combo smokes, and
I know.
I understand.
I like to get, can you get me
certainly
the
get you
model and
absolutely.
the name on that? Because
Absolutely.
that does not sound right at all.
Absolutely.
I sell these things in apartment complexes all day long. Yep. That's a hell of a lot of money for 4 CO detectors.
I was thinking the same thing, and like, so is it in a place where you can't install them, that it might take 6 people to install them, or is the cover for the pull station in the gym the expensive item here? Because it says 4 carbon monoxide detectors and a cover for the pull station. What
cover for the pull station is not the
what does that look
larger
like?
cost.
Like how?
It is a plastic cover.
Okay.
I can actually pull up a picture of it if you'd like
Well,
and
no,
pass
like
it
how
around.
much do
But
you think that costs?
I can get you. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I'll be more than happy to provide the PCO
Okay, but
associated
it's not like
to this.
$2,000.
It is not.
Okay. Is it expensive to put it in?
No.
Okay.
Nancy,
The majority of the cost associated to this is in the smoke and carbon monoxide detectors.
sorry to pile on.
You're fine.
My guess is that the pull thing that we're talking about is like that red fire alarm on the wall, and it's one of those plastic boxes that goes over it so that somebody doesn't inadvertently bump into it and set the fire alarm off.
That is correct.
Is that about it?
That is correct.
So whether it is the $10 it should be or $40 that it probably is, it's not a big portion of this.
No.
I've got another question, though. I'm back to the primary. Do we have carbon monoxide detectors in the mechanical room in the primary school?
I would have to verify that.
Boy, wouldn't it be nice to know? Because when I hear that rain comes into a flue, at least chases the flue, and therefore probably has the opportunity to go into the flue. If the flue has an opportunity to take on rain, which may reduce its ability to exhaust things from our HVAC system, wouldn't it be a bad idea to have carbon monoxide detectors in the primary school? And I'd sure love to find out about that.
I will get that information.
Thanks.
There are caps on the actual flues coming out of the chimney.
Okay. That's good.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay, Nancy.
Our next item is EC09. This is to add power for, sorry.
I just ask a couple questions.
Absolutely.
One is, are there differences between commercial and residential CO2 detectors? And are these tied in?
This is tied into your actual fire alarm, and they are commercial, but to Mr. Midwriter's point, I will be more than happy to provide the backup information associated to the change order.
Thank you.
Just for the record, I'm not against carbon monoxide detectors.
And we don't expect you to shop for dehumidifiers on Amazon or eBay, either one, for the record.
Thank you. So moving on to EC009, also to Merit. This is to add power to our stage curtains. Our specs called for a motorized stage curtain. However, our electrical drawings did not show power to the stage curtains. So this cost...
Again, okay, $1,163 to put power to something that has a motor. Like,
It's an emission, correct?
I mean, this goes on and on and on, and we were told that we weren't going to have many more change orders months ago, that we were pretty much wrapped up.
I don't disagree, and I was the one that told you that.
Yes.
And I was working very hard to try to get that to be the point. Unfortunately, the stage curtains were installed, and the contractor that it was installing the stage curtains said, there's no power here. What are we going to do? So obviously, you want curtains that function. So therefore, we went to Merit and asked them to provide us with the cost to provide the power.
So this is a question that I've had for quite some time. So when we did our value added, when we were cutting things and trying to look for things, like I've kind of felt all along that maybe somebody cut things that they knew that we needed to get the price down, knowing that we would have to pay it on the back end anyways. Like I'm kind of feeling like that the person who is not here to represent himself cut things on purpose that he knew we needed so that he could keep fluffy things like round windows that we didn't need, and lights in a chandelier in the hallway that change colors like a disco ball. He kept those things, but then left out things like carbon monoxide detectors and power for stage curtains. I mean, is that normal in your industry for people to do things like that? I mean, because that's what I'm kind of feeling like we've been shysted here. It makes me really angry that we still have a lot more here. Like, this is not the end. We have to flip to page 2 to finish the change orders.
And let me add in, it begins to appear after a while, because it's one circuit after another, after another, after another, and it's a grand here and it's a grand there, and I echo Deb's concerns. It's almost as if the Dan and Dan show designed a Hollywood set, like a movie set, where they put a light switch on the wall, but nobody was going to turn it on, so they don't have to run a circuit to it. It's all the show stuff.
I guess I'd like to make a comment.
And none of the none of the connectivity that we need to make these things work. It's you know, it comes down to skill or will, really. And I think the skill is probably there, which means that miss after miss after miss after miss of, we'll put the stuff on the wall and they can figure out about connecting it later. It's ridiculous that you would design something and not run electricity to it. And I echo what Deb has to say. I think that somebody got put on the spot to try and get the number under a particular, because I know at least 3 people on this panel, if not more, were willing to walk away from the whole doggone thing if the number went above 60. We had a magic bar there that we were not going to pass beyond when it came to being good stewards for this community. And we put that number out there, and it's, well, we'll get rid of the stuff and we'll add it in as change orders later. That's how it's beginning to look. It's been looking that way for a while.
Okay. I think we, the school board, need to be very careful when it comes to what's clearly omissions in drawings and try to speculate about motivations for why those errors existed. We have no evidence to show that anybody had some subversive type of intent in doing these. So unless there were some evidence, I would be very careful about trying to make assumptions and speculations. I think it's clear that we have drawings that have had errors in them again and again and again. And we always point our fingers at the design team and say, well, the design team made a mistake. But as I just discussed a little bit earlier, it's not just the design team. You know, there's responsibility of reviewers and who performs these reviews that allowed these errors to get into these drawings. So I wouldn't speculate about this reason or that reason until we had more evidence. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just to clarify for the public, before we get into that, where are we total cost with change orders?
So for the primary school, we are at 3.81% change orders to construction cost. The total number of change orders to date amounts to $589,051.82. That's the primary school.
So that's 3 point what percent of the total value of the project?
Back. That is 3.81% change orders to construction cost.
What is industry standard?
5%. Well, let me rephrase.
I was going to say,
5%.
rephrase that because
5% is your contingency.
5% is our contingency. What is the
However,
industry standard?
industry standard is 3. 3 is considered a very successful project.
So we don't have a successful very successful project.
And that includes,
I would say that your change orders are higher than what we would aim for.
that includes the
However,
playground,
that includes the playground.
which was a mess too.
And I'm glad that Dr. P brought that up. Thank you. Because I didn't want to be all doom and gloom here or suggest that the group, anybody in this room, has mishandled funds. Nor do I, thank you for the legal advice, nor do I want to put myself out there and accuse somebody of misleading us. I am just expressing frustration and an opinion that to Deb's point, round windows stayed and some other pretty things stayed, while the doggone wires, stinking wires, from a switch to a motor, the stuff that makes it work. You don't put a faucet on a sink and then not put a pipe to it so that you can draw water.
We're getting to that next.
Can we come back? Can we come back to the intermediate building where we are with change orders so we can at least
Certainly.
finish that part of the conversation?
Certainly. So our percentage change orders to construction cost at the intermediate school is currently at 1.88%. The total value of your change orders for the intermediate school is $622,299.20.
That also includes the playground for that.
That includes the portion of the playground for the intermediate school, correct? I do actually have some extra
The
copies.
total project, both together, do we have the percentage change orders combined? Now that
I do not have that
the
value,
59
but I
million,
can
whatever,
provide it very
included 5% contingency, but you don't have what it would be
I
combined?
can put them both together and give you that value, and I can calculate it as soon as I sit down and
All right.
text that to you, if that would be
That would be
acceptable.
fine. I just want to affirm to the public that we have not crossed the $60 million threshold that we promised we.
Thank you, Dr. P, because I certainly muddied that up. And we are well below that number, if not below. We're quite a bit below that number.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on the stage curtain change order to Merit before I move on? Okay. Our next change order is to Advanced Builders. It is SWC 11, and this is to install a bypass to the PRV in the water vault. This is an item that we did a straw poll vote, through the board, and this is just the official, putting this on the agenda for official vote.
Any questions on the water vault? On the pressure relief valve? Next, Nancy.
Okay, our next item also to Advanced is to add a railing at the stairs to the basement of this primary school. We had some grade changes at the primary school, and with some of those grade changes, the wall that is on the side of the stairs was no longer at an approved height. And in order to prevent, or code requires that a railing needed to be added on that wall to that area. And this is the cost associated to that added railing at $6,479.55.
Questions on the railing?
Is this some sort of a custom railing?
It is custom, yes. I believe
Gold.
I believe it is aluminum.
How long is the railing?
It is, see, there's about 4 feet, and then it goes down the stairs. I don't have the exact lengths, but this would be another one that I provide. We actually originally received a quote for $9,400 for this. This is the revised number based on giving some pushback on the cost.
I was going to say, this got revised down a few $1,000s from what initially came in, so you did a good job with that.
Well, I would have liked it to not been existing at all, but unfortunately, that's not what we have here.
Well, it had to be done, but I mean, if you're going to do something, if you can do it at a reduced cost versus an increased cost, it is what it is.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments associated to the added railing? Our next item is SWC 13. This is to add some additional exterior signage. The design team met with Jim Heck and Tim Skoog, and in the review of the drawings for the site, that I believe there were 2 additional stop signs added to the scope. And then in addition to that, as a part of the review with the fire department, There were 5 parking spots that are next to the fire department connection that we need to mark as no parking locations in order to provide the proper access to that fire department connection. And so additional signage was needed at those locations. So it's a combination of both of those. So on the change order, I have this broken up. So the municipality requirement was $943, and the 2 additional stop signs were $628.26. Any questions about the signage? All right, our last item is SWC 14 to Advanced Builders. This is to widen the emergency access road or path on the stream side of the intermediate building. Again, as a part of our walkthrough with the fire department, the mayor and the supervisor of the municipality, on the 4th of August, they indicated that that path, it's an asphalt path. It is required to be 20 feet. And this is the cost they sat down with us on the 5th to discuss how we were going to handle it, and they gave us 2 options. One is to do it completely in asphalt, and the other is to do a geoblock option. The cost for the geoblock option was actually less money than the asphalt, but in addition to that, it's a more environmentally conscious choice because the block then can allow grass to grow through it. And it provides the stability that's needed for the fire truck, but you still have a path that looks like it's grass.
Nancy, could you explain that again? Because you made it sound like you weren't aware that this path needed to be 20 feet until August 4th. That was not my understanding.
The path that was provided per the drawings was 10 feet. When we walked through, and I personally did not know that that path needed to be 20 feet. The drawing shows it as 10 feet. However, per the fire department, the supervisor of the municipality, and the fire chief, the mayor, they indicated that there were meetings that indicated it needed to be 20 feet. Now, Mr. John Frederick is here from CEC, and the district asked that I have him be here for this meeting in order to answer some additional questions. So, John, if you wouldn't mind joining me.
Right, I guess going back into some history in regard to the project, as proposed back in 2017 when the first plan was generated and presented to the municipality and then in turn to the emergency services, the site plan on the south side of the building indicated an 8-foot sidewalk that was at grade with the lower level of the finished floor of the 3-story academic wing. At the request of the fire chief and the firemen that were at the earliest meeting, and that was August of 2017, they had asked us to consider fire department access for their equipment to access the south side above the stream channel to assess or to fight a fire on a 3-story exposure of the building. So in turn, when we made application to Murraysville, we changed that sidewalk from the 8-foot adjacent to the building and moved it over and provided a 10-foot wide sidewalk in lieu of the 8-foot sidewalk that sat much higher. At no time was it discussed that the sidewalk had to be in excess of what was shown. The municipality had always received plans with a 10-foot access road covering a 20-foot exposed graded pathway. The 20-foot came from the outriggers of the ladder truck based on stability. So again, the truck had adequate width. The fire truck wheelbase is 7 foot 9 inches. So we provided a 10-foot clear heavy-duty asphalt paved cartway to a point that was agreed upon with the fire chief, the fire department, and the other service providers for the municipality. At no time do we ever receive correspondence from Murraysville in any reviews indicating that we needed to provide a 20-foot. So the plan stayed a 10-foot wide heavy-duty path with a full 20-foot expanse for their outriggers. So they could stage at any point in time, put their outriggers out and have a stable surface. And it's all
So
compacted.
in the drawings where it says, in some of those drawings where it says 21 feet,
That's the graded pathway. The first drawing that was provided was to show that, yes, we can achieve that and provide the request that the fire department made to show a 20-foot or 21-foot graded pathway from the physical roadway surface. There's a heavy-duty concrete apron, and then there's a heavy-duty asphalt paved cartway that extends 2/3 of the way up the building, and then it reverts back to a smaller section of asphalt. And then in March 20th, we do have a letter from Murraysville as well, positioning of the fire apparatus. And the response from Murraysville, the major concern was the positioning on the right side of the new elementary school. This has been addressed by a drive-on sidewalk. No indication of a paved cartway or roadway. It simply says a drive-on sidewalk. And again, we took an 8-foot wide sidewalk, converted it to a 10-foot heavy-duty path to accommodate the wheelbase of the fire truck. And it wasn't until August, a month ago, that the fire chief administrator, and the mayor came out and said that we did not provide a 20-foot paved cartway. In regard to the two options, again, we looked at extending the paved cartway for a full 20-foot, but we're not going the whole way. So we, based on a field view that we did on August 5th, the day following, we provided a 200-foot section that the truck could come up the 10-foot paved cartway and pull to the right, and then have a full 20-foot for their outriggers over a 200-foot stretch, which encompasses the full 3-story exposure on the south side of the building. The second option was the geoblock system, where again, when we met, it was a concern about providing an excessive amount of pavement to no benefit. So we talked about using a paver system, which would allow stability, but yet allow the grass to grow that could be mowed, maintained, and you really wouldn't see the surface that's there, but it is a stabilized, and it does accept the fire rating in regard to the ladder truck and the new ladder truck that's on order.
John, I'd just like to let the public know that what you're saying is absolutely a problem that goes on a lot with municipal governments, with changes that happen, or we'll call that unforeseen, because you guys did not know that. I just want the public to know that this is not the school board or the school district trying to add more money to the cost of this project. This is truly something that happened that I'd call this a curveball that nobody was expecting, but you're only complying with what their wishes are. I just want to be on the record for that.
Appreciate that, thank you.
I'd like to probe that just a little bit further. You stated that it was August something was the first you knew about a 20-foot requirement. You explained a lot about where the 10-foot requirement came from. Did they cite, or maybe you said it and I missed it, some requirement to have 20 feet? Is that a recent change to regulations or directions?
There's no regulation that requires it. It was a request that was made back in the fall of 2017 where we wanted to provide access, or the fire department asked for access to get their ladder truck to the side of the building.
All right.
And the plans as submitted and as reviewed, again, we were through the municipal process nearly 13 months. And that discussion and the paved width was never documented beyond the 10-foot that was always shown. That was what was delivered.
So all the records are based on
Correct.
10 feet. And then we had an inspection, and suddenly we become aware that it needs to be 21 feet, but obviously, 20 feet, I'm sorry. And obviously the municipality had reason, and I guess the reason is when the fire trucks put their outriggers out or something, they could go out further than the 10-foot distance would permit.
Correct. Again, the 20-foot was discussed. We have all the diagrams and the model based on the Suffolk's Fire Department, the apparatus ladder 20. We have all those diagrams, so we know exactly where those outriggers come out. And we, again, over that expanse of that entire road from the paved cartway up to nearly, like I said, about beyond 2/3 of the face of the south face of the building, there's 21 feet of 21 foot of exposed flat surface graded to accommodate those outriggers.
All right.
Again, we were just never made aware through any correspondence that the outriggers had to be placed on sound surface or heavy-duty pavement. Again, we accommodated the wheelbase of the fire truck.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, John. Okay, Dr. Prino, PSBA slate candidates.
As always, one of your favorite things to do is vote for PSBA candidates at the upcoming meeting. Many of whom you know not much about other than their bio that is in there, but it is there for your approval. Next is the Panther Stadium Scoreboard agreement. Garland Insurance Agency has their sponsorship of the scoreboard has expired. This is a replacement for their spot on that board, and it's Dedicated Nursing Associates. And Dedicated Nursing Associates and Meadowink are owned by the same person, and so we're excited to have them on the board in two places.
Okay, great.
As you know, you own the board. The sponsorship goes to the foundation. Then the last two items, we had a public hearing a few months ago for the process for closing Heritage Elementary School and Newlandsburg, and the resolution is just to finalize that. There was a process where we had the public hearing, you took in public comment, and this is to officially close those schools.
Any questions on 26 through 29? Hearing none, need a motion to adjourn. Move Jane, second Paul. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to go into Monday, September 20th, 2021, the FR Board of School Directors for their regular voting meeting. We're going to stand for salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading of the mission statement. We, the Franklin Regional School Community, strive for excellence, learning, achievement, and citizenship in all we do. We were not in an executive session before the regular voting meeting tonight. Okay, Ms. Wolf, roll call.
Mr. Scheinert.
Here.
Mr. Mitterator.
Here.
Mr. Kozlowski.
Here.
Mr. Nevin.
Here.
Mrs. Towers.
Here.
Mr. Weinman.
Here.
Mrs. Woolley.
Here.
Mr. Yant is absent. Mr. Yingling.
Here. Thank you. Okay, Superintendent's report, Dr. Prino.
No report this evening.
Thank you. Special voting meeting minutes. I need approval for the voting minutes from August 23rd, 2021.
So moved. Sean?
Second.
Second one.
Thank you. Okay, public comments. We had no one sign up for public comments for this public meeting.
You have to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Motion in a second.
Need a roll call. I did need a motion to vote for the minutes. We got that?
Yeah, we have that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, future dates.
Upcoming board and committee meetings include October 4th, the Committee of the Whole meeting, and a special voting meeting beginning at 7:30 p.m. And October 16th is a regular voting meeting at 7:30 p.m. Upcoming topics include personnel, Catapult Learning, LLC Professional Service Agreement, Title I for 21-22, and gifts, grants, and donations. That concludes upcoming meetings and upcoming topics.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move the motion for bills to be approved by September 2021. Paid bills. General fund of $533,350.43. Capital reserve, $3,289.50. Athletic fund, $1,389.36. Construction fund, $560,205.50, for a total of paid bills of $1,098,234.79. Unpaid bills, general fund of $1,093,207.96. Technology fund of $10,459.64. Capital reserve fund of $57,201.26. Athletic fund of $17,915.66. Construction fund, $1,014,124.86, for a total unpaid bills of $2,192,909.38, for a grand total of $3,291,144.17. Food service is zero, which makes the grand total, including food service, of $3,291,144.17. Need a motion for the list of bills.
So moved, Nevin.
Moved Nevin,
Second, Shiner.
second Paul. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Treasurer's report for August 2021. We need a motion to approve the treasurer's report. Move Debbie,
Second, Shiner.
second Shiner. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Public like I said, there were no public comments listed for tonight's meeting for the voting meeting. Solicitor's comments, do you have any?
No comments at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to consent agenda items. Any consent agenda items to be removed from the board voting meeting tonight?
Mr. President, I'd like to just remove number 13.
13,
Mr. President, I'd like to pull number 16, 19, and 20.
13, 15, 19, and 20. Anybody else? I need a motion to approve.
I thought he said 16.
Oh, 16.
13, 16, 19, and 20.
I'm sorry, I thought you said 15.
No, I'm sorry, 16.
Okay, I need a motion to approve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 17, 18, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25.
So moved, Nevin.
Shiner.
Move Shiner,
Second.
second Nevin. All in favor? Sure.
Mr. President, I'd like to add number 15 also.
Scratch 15 from the motion to be approved. All right, we have a motion to approve everything except 13, 15, 16, 19, and 20. And it's seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Okay. 13, who pulled 13 was Mark?
I did. I have no objection to it. I was just going to abstain from the vote, so if Ms. Wolf, if you can just send me the papers on it.
Okay. Any other comments? We need a motion to approve 13. Moved Jane. Need a second.
Second, Scott.
Scott, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. 15, Mr. Moderator.
13. That was 13.
We just did 13.
13, 7, you can't do
But
7.
13 wasn't 8-0 because he abstained.
That's correct. It was 7 and an abstention.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It was 7-0.
I'm sorry, 7-0.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to make sure that we were clear.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
My fault, sorry. Okay, 15, Ed. Change order for guides, mechanical cap installation.
We'd need to have a motion and a second before any discussion.
I need a motion for change order number 15.
So move, Shiner.
Second, Jane. All right, motion to discuss, Ed. You pulled it.
For number 16?
15.
15.
You pulled it.
This is the cap.
It's about
for
the cap for the
chimney.
the chimney. 15.
15 is the cap installation on an existing boiler.
Yeah, the question on the cap is I want to get information, I want to get the information back to see the actual cost.
Well, she already said she was going to send that to you.
Right, so I can't see approving something until we know what the actual cost is on that.
Anybody want to second his motion about pulling this until we get an actual cost?
Asking motion to
Did you
table.
want to table it?
You want to table it?
I'd like to table it, motion to table it.
Second.
Harmon,
Second.
you second the motion to table? All in favor for motion to table number 15 till we
Just had
get
a
an
question
actual
about it.
cost?
Would the motion to table it cause any, I know we've had it uncapped for, I assume we had it uncapped for a while. Would that cause any potential harm to any systems or anything in place?
As long as it doesn't rain. As long as it doesn't rain, right? Yeah, Dave.
I can speak on that.
Please come to one of the microphones.
Right now, with summer being here, the boilers aren't running. So water is coming down those flues and into the building to a control panel. It is leaking on a control panel as we speak if it rains. Before, it would just go into that crawl space. Right now, the water is, like I said, coming down the flue. If it was in heating season, the water would evaporate before it would get there.
So is it a potential for corrosion to that?
Corrosion get inside that control panel and do damage to the control panel.
That's an electrical control panel.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So we have not installed the cap yet. We have it potentially ordered. How long are we talking
As far as getting it installed.
potentially to install it now?
I don't think
versus-
it's, I mean, they know it's, they know it's being recommended for the board today. So, I would anticipate they're getting things ready so that as soon as they're given the okay, they can proceed with the work. I think there's a good understanding that it's a problem that we don't have it.
Otherwise, I mean, is there another way to just put something over to cap it, or is this like other options we have? That's my other question.
I believe I want to say they're 12-inch flues going through that chimneys, 3 of them. You could see daylight from the boiler room where these go up through. I agree that it should have been part of the project when they were put through the chimney as a cap.
My only comment is the cost, and I don't see why you couldn't even put a temporary tarp over it. Like, do you see people doing roofing when there's a hole in a roof before they get a chance to do the roofing? Why can't we put a temporary patch over that until we can get to the cost? Because I just think the cost is outrageous.
I agree. I asked for it to be priced and galvanized, and they came back with, I think it was $50 cheaper.
I think the email was that there would not be a cost savings to do it in galvanized versus stainless.
And as far as the tarp, I mean, depending on how quick this happens, if those boilers kick on, you can't have a tarp over top of a boiler flue.
Have it open.
Just for my 2 cents worth, I think in the middle of all this other stuff, and while I absolutely respect and agree that the costs seem extreme, the reality is because as I understand it, because it's not just the cap, it's all the custom work that goes around the fact that you've already got 3 flue pipes there. And whatever savings we might enjoy, whether it's $50 to go to galvanized or and you mentioned tin, whatever it is, whether it's $50 or $100 or $200 to expose our control panel in the mechanical room to water, one, or to go to the expense, and there will be some expense, to buy the tarp, to have labor put it on, and then to have the contractors come back at a later time, and we table it until when? A month from now? Do we decide in October?
Get the damn thing done.
Whether or not we're gonna put a cap on a chimney that is letting rainwater into a control panel? I get it, and I respect and agree with the need to contain costs, but this is to me stepping over a dollar trying to pick up a penny. It just seems that way to me.
We can go over this with all these items on the list, because that's what we'll be doing. The electric curtain, we're going to have to add that too. Are we just all supposed to just vote yes? That's the...
With all due respect, not being able to open a curtain with a motor versus rain coming into a control panel that's going to cost a hell of a lot more to replace than whatever savings we might enjoy on this cap.
I'm not disagreeing, but what we're going to say is all of these items, we're just going to go, yep, we got to do them.
I'm not going to say
Well,
that.
that's what we've been doing right along. And I feel like every time it's urgent that we vote for something that none of us want to vote for. I mean, we could, instead of cover the cap, we could cover the control panel so water didn't get in the control panel. I mean, I would hope that we were doing that already to prevent water from getting on the control panel. But I think we have to vote yes for things that we don't want to vote yes for. I mean, it goes on, and I don't, I'll be glad when it's over.
All right. Do a roll call vote on the table.
Motion to table.
Motion to table.
Mr. Scheinert?
No.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski?
No.
Mr. Nevin?
No.
Mrs. Tower?
No.
Mr. Weinman?
No, because I agree with Greg.
Mrs. Willeen?
No.
Mr. Yingling?
No.
7-1.
7-1.
Motion
did not.
fails. The motion
Motion's
fails.
defeated by 7-1.
So now we have a motion on
Now
the
I have a
floor.
motion to approve
That's correct.
number 15 to get the cap installation on the room and chimney.
Second, Nevin.
It was already motioned and
We
seconded.
already had the motion. Okay, I guess we ought to do a roll call vote on this one too then.
Mr. Scheinert?
Yes.
Mr. Moderator?
No.
Mr. Kozlowski?
Yes.
Mr. Nevin?
Yes.
Mrs. Tower?
Yes.
Mr. Weinman?
Yes.
Mrs. Willeen?
Yes.
Mr. Yingling?
Yes,
Motion carries 7-1.
thank you. Okay, Mr. Moderator, number 16. Dedicated circuit for existing sump pump.
We need a motion and a second to discuss.
Okay, I need a motion for 16.
So moved. Willeen.
Second,
Second, Scheinert.
Scheinert. Dedicated circuit for existing sump pump.
Was that not something that should have already been in there?
It's in there, but it's on a circuit with a bunch of other stuff is what the problem is, am I
This,
right?
this was existing, this wasn't part of the renovation. This was multiple unit vents going to a area where the sump pump was, and how we found out that it was a dedicated circuit shut off was the classroom was flooded and water came into the carpet. This was not part of the renovation. It was something done who knows how long ago when they added the sump pump.
So nobody knew about that until something happened?
They
Until
didn't know
somebody
was on
shut it
some-
off, correct.
Didn't know it was all in one circuit.
Okay.
I assume the circuit had been shut off for some other piece of equipment.
It was shut off due to the renovation, something happening in that control panel, not knowing that that was part of that circuit.
We learned that that wasn't a wise way to have it wired.
Correct.
Okay, are there any other comments? Roll call vote. Ms. Wolf.
Mr. Scheinert,
Yes.
Mr. Miterator,
Under the circumstances, yes.
Mr. Kozlowski,
Yes.
Mr. Nevin,
Yes.
Mrs. Tower,
Yes.
Mr. Weinman,
Yes.
Mrs. Wooleen,
Yes.
Mr. Yingling.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, I need a motion for number 19, change order EC008, addition of carbon monoxide detectors. Need a motion. Moved, Ms. Tower, second.
Second, Kozlowski.
Okay. Mr. Miterator, number 19.
Okay, are we going back to the carbon monoxide one? Because
That's what we're on, carbon monoxide.
okay. Again, it's just my knowledge of this stuff, even though they're a commercial and they're tied in and all that stuff, it just to me seems outrageous for 4 of these things to cost that kind of money.
$700 a piece.
I have hearing impaired smoke detectors that I'm familiar with that I sell for about $150 for hearing impaired, which is considered one of the more higher ticketed ones. So again, I'm just questioning the cost on something like that. Not that you don't need it, you absolutely need it. That's not a
Understood.
question. It's the cost. It's a cost question.
Again, I will provide that backup information as soon as I am able to get to my computer to do so.
If I can ask the question, because I absolutely adhere what you're saying, and it seems like a heck of a lot of money. What I don't see here, and it gets back to minutia, what I don't see here is how much did the unit cost? I'm guessing that there's no circuit. If they didn't plan on the unit, then we don't have a circuit to get to it.
They're swapping a smoke for a dual smoke carbon monoxide.
Okay, so the circuit's already there.
Correct.
So we're literally taking whatever this unit is, this combo unit, unplugging the smoke detector and wiring this one in, and it's tied into the fire system. So if we're using existing circuitry, then I have to echo the question, why the heck is it this much money?
Is it possible to ask if they could get a little bit better price?
We do try to push back when we get costs like this, but they came, I just pulled up the information, and they have that the combo smoke carbon dioxide are $523 each.
Can you provide a model number for me?
I will be happy to do that.
And how about suggesting at cost or something?
So that is just the cost of the combination units.
Labor then?
The labor is actually only 2 hours for an electrician. So that comes in at $160.50. So the cost is in the material, the units. I can ask for the backup from the supplier.
Are we getting a credit for the fire?
The other
Smoke
item,
detector?
because the other item was installed, no, unfortunately, but they will provide that item back to the district so that they can use it as a spare part.
We don't need a spare part. I mean, those are going to sit in a box and somewhere for how long? And then,
Use them somewhere.
5 years from now, when we need something, we'll want a new smoke
can ask
detector.
the
We won't want a smoke detector that's been sitting in a box for 5 years.
I don't disagree, but I can ask the question if they would be willing to take those and give us credits for them. I'll ask the question.
Mr. Massey, how often do we have to replace smoke detectors in other places across the district?
in my short time of being here, I know we've changed a couple duct detectors at the new school because they couldn't be cleaned due to construction. So it does happen. I can't put a time frame on that.
Is this the same thing as a duct detector? I'm sorry.
It's on the same basis.
Just for clarity, the fire department asked us to do these things, right?
That is correct.
So we've got kids in a building, and the fire department said, we need to do these.
That is correct.
I mean, I know that we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, but I don't think we've got a choice. When we've got 600-700 kids in a building, and the fire department says, you know, the responsible thing to do would be to put in carbon monoxide detectors and put a cover over that fire pole.
Just vote yes.
I,
It's the only option.
It's
the only
a
option.
gun to the head. It is frustrating as anything.
There's not a question that it needs done, and this is not to have anyone think that we're not looking at the security of kids. It's just that at some point you got to draw a line in the sand. Do we need to do the work? Yes. All that I'm saying is get somebody to go back and sharpen their pencil, because I think that the cost is outrageous. That's my comment.
Understood.
Well, she just gave you the cost and she'll give you the model number. You'll get the model number. Thank you.
I'm not sure this makes a difference, but for whatever it's worth, it's got to be a replacement that fits in where the old one fit in. I don't know what that means, whether you might be kind of married to one model of detector, but I'm not saying you are.
The actual item number.
The model number will be really good because so many of the different major manufacturers, the bases are interchangeable. So it's just a matter of screwing off something and screwing a new head onto it.
And I have no problem asking for the information.
Okay, any other comments? We have a motion to approve. We need a roll call vote.
Mr. Scheinert?
Yes.
Mr. Moderator?
Again, it's a yes because of safety, but again, we want to get the numbers checked, that's all.
Mr. Kozlowski?
Yes.
Mr. Nevin?
Yes.
Mrs. Tower?
Yes.
Mr. Weinman?
Yes.
Mrs. Boleen?
Yes.
Mr. Yingling?
Yes,
Motion carries 8-0.
thank you. Okay, I need a motion for number 20, change order EC 009, add power to the stage curtains.
So move, Scheinert.
Thank you. Okay. Did you pull this one?
Yeah. Well, I think we've had enough discussion on this with we'll call it the word omission, again, it's being used very strongly. It's another one of these things that fell through the crack, but it's just bringing it to the awareness of the public of what we're trying to do. I have heard from many people out in the public that all we're trying to do is spend our money. I can assure you, every person on this board is doing our damnedest to keep the cost down. So when I hear from the peanut gallery that we're just spend, that's not true. I just want that to be put on the record.
Well, she mentioned this was an omission, so it's on the list of omissions. Any other comments? Hearing none, roll call vote, Ms. Wolf.
Mr. Scheinert?
Yes.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski?
Yes.
Mr. Nevin?
Yes.
Mrs. Tower?
Yes.
Mr. Weinman?
Yes.
Mrs. Boleen?
Yes.
Mr. Yingling?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, that's the end of the change order items. Agenda items. Permission to advertise for the 2022-23 Joint Purchasing Program. Mr. Perry. Anybody have any questions on the joint purchasing?
No.
Okay. We'll do these as a group then, 1, 2, 3, and 4. PSBA slate of candidates for review. Dr. Pirano, we talked about that already.
You can't do that as a group. You have to.
Okay, we'll do it one at a time. All right, I need a motion for permission to advertise 2023 Joint Purchasing Program.
So moved, Nevin.
Second, Moderator.
Comments? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Mr. Scheinert?
Yes?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes?
Mr. Kozlowski?
Yes.
Mr. Nevin?
Yes.
Mrs. Tower?
Yes.
Mr. Wyman?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooleen?
Yes.
Mr. Yingling?
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Okay, PSBA slate of candidates for review. Dr. Perna went over this. Everybody got, I think, a letter from most of these people.
Did.
Okay, I need a motion to approve Pennsylvania slate of candidates.
You have to choose one, yeah.
Well,
President has two.
You have to nominate somebody.
okay.
President.
Anybody have a preference with the nominations on this? We have in the past not voted on this because we don't know the people that's involved. We can't do that. Anybody have a preference?
Prefer to abstain.
Pardon me?
I prefer to abstain based on the fact that what you just said is true. We don't know these people, so I think it's not fair to put a vote out to somebody we don't know who we're voting for.
So you're recommending
You're recommending to vote no for the candidates?
the Brewster's Million choice, none of the above?
Yes.
That's what-
Yes.
I would so move that we abstain from voting.
You second that?
Second.
Jane Tower motion, Ed seconded. Any other comments? Roll call vote. That we are going to not vote for anyone.
Sorry. I'm a little disappointed. Mr. Scheinert?
No?
Mr. Moderator?
No.
Mr. Kozlowski?
Yes.
Which way should be no and which, I think we're confused. Are we voting?
You're voting no.
Yes, to
We're
not
just-
vote,
We're
right?
just, no,
We're
voting
voting
no,
not to
so
endorse
you're not
candidates.
voting for
We're
anyone.
voting not to endorse.
You're just voting
And
not
no
to
means
endorse.
don't
So
endorse.
Yeah, so
no.
you're
No
voting
means
yes if
means
you don't
not
want to.
endorse. No means we should endorse.
Pardon me?
Yes,
No
I think it's
means-
a double negative here.
Yeah, let's
Okay,
let's
let
clarify
me
that.
clarify.
Let's clarify that,
Voting
please.
no would say you are not voting for any candidates. Voting yes would be you are voting, but then you're going to have to say who the candidates you're voting for.
Correct, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Okay?
You don't want to.
We're voting no.
Let's
The
start.
current motion.
Start again.
There was not a motion to abstain. There was a motion to approve this, and it was seconded. Then there was discussion about to abstain or not to abstain. I think at this point, the answer is if you vote no, we will not endorse any candidates. If you'd like to vote yes,
As a board.
as a board, if you'd like to vote yes, then you need to vote for you need to say who those specific candidates are.
But we have to vote as a board first, right? Because if the whole board votes.
If four of you vote for a specific person and 5 votes no, we are not endorsing it.
Right, that's what I mean.
That's
So
correct.
if we go through no, yes, and then
That's
if it's, right, that's what I said. So yes.
Sorry, I
I would start again.
confused you.
Okay. Mr. Scheinert?
Yes.
Who are you voting for?
Sabrina Backer, Allison Mathis, and then the other 3 candidates that are listed.
Mr. Moderator?
No, because I don't know the folks.
Mr. Kozlowski?
Yes.
Who do you vote for?
David Schapp, Allison Mathis, and the other 3 candidates.
Are those the same ones that Mr. Shiner was voting for?
No. No.
I voted for Sabrina Backer. Mark voted for David Schapp.
I couldn't hear with his mask.
Mr. Nevin?
David Schapp, Allison Mathis, and the other 3 candidates for trustee.
Mrs. Tower?
No.
Mr. Wyman?
David Schapp, Allison, and the other 3.
Mrs. Wooleen?
David Schapp, Allison Mathis, and the other 3.
Mr. Yingling?
No, 'cause I don't know them.
4 for David, 1 for Sabrina, and 3 noes.
So you didn't get a 5 vote?
So you,
You did not get
So
5
we would
votes?
like to vote for people, but we don't have a
Vote for-
majority to vote
well, we don't have a 5 for.
for the,
For the one person.
so we'd have to vote for the one, again. Just for the one position.
Okay.
All right?
Clarify that.
We need a motion to
We
do
would
this
need a
again?
motion just for the one position.
Okay, need a motion for the one position.
What is the
President
position? Let's be
President.
specific.
President.
Okay.
Motion
Two names.
for
Okay.
President-elect.
Do another vote for President-elect.
Moved by Mr. Nevin, I need a second.
Second, Shiner.
Second, Shiner. Okay, roll call vote for President-elect.
And we're,
Want to just say the name you'd like?
okay, so we'll do David since he already had 4. We'll try that. Mr. Shiner,
Yes.
Mr. Moderator,
I'm confused.
No.
Yeah, it's David Schapp we're voting on right now.
You either want to endorse him or not.
For David? Yes, fine.
Okay, that's,
Kozlowski,
Yes.
Mr. Nevin,
Yes.
Mrs. Tower,
Yes.
Mr. Weinman,
Yes.
Mrs. Willeen,
Yes.
Mr. Yant is not here, I'm sorry, Mr. Yingling.
yes.
Okay, so we've approved David Schaab as president-elect and Allison Mathis as vice president and the other 3 for the trustee.
Correct.
Okay,
Well,
thank you. Okay, we need a resolution for directing the closing of Heritage Elementary School. Need a motion to close Heritage Elementary.
So moved, Nevin.
second, Shiner.
Comments? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Mr. Shiner,
Yes.
Mr. Moderator,
Closing Heritage, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski,
Yes.
Mr. Nevin,
Yes.
Mrs. Tower,
Yes.
Mr. Weinman,
Yes.
Mrs. Willeen,
Yes.
Mr. Yingling.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Resolution to direct the closing of Newlandsburg School. Need a motion to close Newlandsburg.
So move, Shiner.
Second?
Second one.
Second.
Second, Wyman. Comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Shiner,
Yes.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski,
Yes.
Mr. Nevin,
Yes.
Mrs. Tower,
Yes.
Mr. Weinman,
Yes.
Mrs. Willeen,
Yes.
Mr. Yingling.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So move, Shiner.
Second, moderator.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.